put it differently. There are places in the world where the government is still so cumbersome and filling out forms is so manual and so annoying that just by digitizing the form in a nice mobile-friendly, kind of forget what I filled, remember what I filled in earlier type situation, just that can be considered as a service that people will pay money for. Then we're going to talk about my favorite subject in the world, forms. Actual paper forms that you got to fill out whenever you want anything from any government agency, or you want to rent a car, or you want to get a tax return or whatever. You know about forms, right, Agam? It's a thing that you're familiar with.
Yeah, I'm just surprised why that is the most interesting thing in your...
Yes. I obviously over-exaggerated, but like for the sake of this discussion, I will make it appear as if this is the most important thing in my life. Some magic to the show, if you will. So I want to tell you how I came about this whole forms idea. I was scrolling through Hacker News. It's like this tech programming related type website. And usually they talk about tech and programming related type stuff. But this time I came across an article that kind of hinged on an idea that made a lot of sense to me, which is manual processes or cumbersome processes, things that involve red tape, are ripe for the taking. And us at Up for Grabs are big fans of things that are up for the taking, i.e. up for grabs, i.e. ripe for the taking. You get the analogy stream here, right, Agam?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. So I have tired Agam already. It's like 1 minute 20 into the cast. So about the forms. This guy was living in Berlin. And apparently in Berlin, there is a thing that you have to do in order to get some sort of, stuff from the city. I don't even kind of mention the details, but you got to fill out a form in order to kind of be a real Berlin citizen. Registering your address or whatever. It has some sort of... But what he figured out is that currently, in order to do that, you have to take out the form, fill it manually, go and hand it into the government place, make sure that it's written correctly and all the boxes are checked in the right order and all the specific information about you is filled out correctly. And there's like 57 different things you can get wrong on the form. Now, if you get the form wrong, the Germans in Berlin, as most Germans do, will not accept the form, right? It's a very strict country when it comes to regulation. I have actually worked for a German company for about 2.5 years. Everything is super strict and kind of mostly involves red tape whenever you got to do.
Really? Germans are strict?
I know. I was surprised as well. But this is one of those things that actually kind of apparently are true. And the guy here is super... The guy here in the comments in Hacker News will post them in the description thing for the YouTube videos. Everybody's complaining about the German red tape. It's amazing. But this got me thinking. What this guy did eventually, and I'll drop the link for that as well, he ended up creating this thing where you can fill out the form online, and then there are a few different upsells you can do. So, for example, they can mail the form for you. That's one thing. In addition, they can bring someone, a translator, a local person in Berlin, to go with you to the place where you got to hand out the form, right? And then kind of translate the whole, discussion or relationship with the person there for you. And then there's a bunch of other stuff that they do. This is like a non-profit thing. He didn't build it, I think, to make money. He built it because this is a shit show and he had to do it himself. And he's a developer. So he built this form that has like nice autocomplete and he got like guesses a bunch of stuff and he remembers stuff if you forgot. A bunch of things that are very cool on the form. And this got me thinking about a larger problem that exists for anybody who has ever tried to fill out forms. Digitization systems are shit. NHS forms, like forms for healthcare and stuff like that, you got to fill out, are always shit. Tax return forms are always shit. Where I come from, there are services that fill out tax returns for you and actually take 12% of whatever they can get back because people don't have the time to go in and like handle all the forms. It's insane. So my idea is as follows. Hear me out. I think there are some underutilized areas in the world, or rather, let's put it differently. There are places in the world where the government is still so cumbersome and filling out forms is so manual and so annoying that just by digitizing the form in a nice mobile-friendly, kind of forget what I filled, remember what I filled in earlier type situation, just that can be considered as a service that people will pay money for. And then on top of that, you can upsell a bunch of different things. Translator, legal referrals, lawyer referrals, whatever. A bunch of things that once the person has filled out the form, even if you want to give it for free, you can upsell them on very different, like a bunch of different types of services from them. Does that make any sense to you, Agam?
Yeah.
Okay. I want to give one example of somebody who already does it. Agam, you and I know him very well. It's the guy from Visafrog. The guy from Visafrog essentially built the system, which is it is a form. It is a form. Every single thing in his system is a form. Agam, back me up on this?
Yeah. Form.
You have a form for every different country. You fill out the visa requirements via Visafrog. And then after that, you just get the visa. They hand it for you. You don't have to do anything. You pay some money, you get a visa. Amazing.
By the way, this is even more interesting because a lot of these forms are already digital. Just a lot of the countries have shitty, UI UX to actually work on them. For example, I remember I helped a friend fill out their Indian visa form, and it's super annoying. Like the website is kind of buggy and takes a long time. And in Visafrog, you just enter the things in a really nice UI. Basically the same. It's not even a paper form. It's a digital form. They just made a better UI UX on top of it. And they take like this margin of B to just send it for you and make sure that all the information is correct and your photo is correct and all that stuff. So you just do it once, and it's basically just a better user experience to fill out the form.
I'm telling you, I think this is something that everyone should be at least looking at some way, shape, or form, because there's so many low-hanging fruits here. I want to do just like a random GPT, type prompt. I fed GPT 3.5, which is now considered the dumber model, right? So I fed it this thing. Can you please give me a list of typical of like forms in a normal country? List 100. I'm sorry about that. Just by getting ChatGPT to list a bunch of forms for me, I can see a bunch of different things that are potentially, I'm not sure if they are, but potentially can be digitized. More importantly, these are generic forms that are relevant for every type of country in the world. Everybody has a business license application. Everybody has loan applications. Everybody have divorce petitions and so forth and so forth. What you got to figure out, and that's the hard problem here, is which ones of those forms are not digitized already. What forms? One moment ago. One form. Which of those forms are not digitized already? Which forms are interesting enough that people are willing to pay for them, i.e. the process is way too cumbersome. And 3, what people are already searching for, right? So you don't have to kind of dig for those people in the dirt. But before I continue, Agam needs to speak. So I will let
Programmatic SEO?
There you go. Exactly. So I would take this list of a bunch of forms that exist there, cross-reference us with every single country in the world, potentially even translate that to the relative language, like the language where the country is. Like for Germany, I would do German and whatever. And just figure out if there's search volume there. This can be done by tools like Ahrefs or SEOmatch or Majestic. Like just Google YouTube for bulk keyword search, super easy. And then you will get like a list of whether there is or there isn't any search volume for this. I will not go into it now. But what I do want to go into is how I would do that if I were you right now. So getting the whole programmatic SEO approach is just, it's a little bit time consuming still, because you got to figure out exactly what works and then spin up a website with a bunch of different content. And we are fans, like we're programmatic SEO, fans. We both build big programmatic SEO things. It worked well for us. So like, we like it. But what if you just want to kind of get started today without going the whole programmatic SEO route? I have an idea for you. Since the European Union came to be, we now have a bunch of countries. I don't know how many countries are in the EU, probably like 25, 30, whatever. However many countries are in the EU. Now, if you want to move from one country in the EU to another, you have to do some stuff, right, that you had in the previous country, then have them in the new country. Apparently, there is a website. This website is called europa.eu. And I just pulled up a random page here, which is the page for their social security rights. What if you move from one country to another and you want to retain your social security rights? Supposedly, and again, I'm no legal expert, but supposedly if I have some sort of pension or some sort of, money coming in from the government in one country because, maybe I have some sort of disability or my mother is sick, God forbid, or stuff like that, I might get the same benefits from the new country, right? What if I want to move to a new country and I want to get those same rights in the new country? So there is this thing here where it lists all the different forms that are relevant for this specific problem and where you got to submit it to. I would just take this page as it is, right? And there's like a translation button here, right? You can translate to the different languages. I would go through all of those various queries there. Just look at how much search volume are for these specific forms in the relevant languages, right? for each form. From that, I would try and figure out which one of them are easiest for me to digitize. I don't know those forms at all. You'd have to look into them and kind of figure out which are easy. And then after doing that, I would digitize 2 forms, just 2 forms. And then I would place them under this kind of, not programmatic SEO, but just kind of SEO campaign, and try to rank for these pages. And if that's too much work for you, I would do something even easier. Once I figure out which of the search volumes, like which of those forms have the most search volume, I would take those forms and I would place them in one of the subreddits for expats. There's I Want Out, there's Reddit expats. Agam, you know, like the expat community more than I do. But like essentially I would go and say, I have digitized form S1, right? For whatever purpose S1 is. Can you please try it out? And just see how many people sign up and fill it out. I believe that just by these kind of 2 marketing techniques, you will build something that is very easy to build. It's just a form. You will kind of follow all the requirements on the websites, and you will give a service that people will always need because people are always filling out forms. I have spoken without stopping for 11 minutes straight.
I think it just came up into my mind. You can use the new Versal's, I think it's called V1 or V0. Yeah, V0 to generate those forms.
There you go. And essentially, you just need like form verification.
But just to explain that for people that don't know, Versal is like this big player in the let's call it DevOps full stack space. And basically, they came up with this new AI tool to create front ends. So you kind of write what you want and it creates your front end. So I think it would be pretty good at generating those kinds of forms in a way that the UX and the UI is very nice, which is what you want to do, which could save you a lot of time generating all these forms at scale.
Just to give an example of what Agam mentioned, you put a lot of prompts into this V0 dev type thing, and then slowly it generates the components for you. It basically generates the exact React components that you need. Just from your prompts, and you can slowly kind of make them better and better over time using this kind of AI tool. Very cool. Supposedly the new frontier for front-end development. I'm not a front-end guy. Agam is more than I am.
So let's say you have this campaign of forms. You would start with government forms, I guess.
Good question. I actually thought about that. And I wondered whether it's better to go with like bank forms, stuff that are financial related, like mortgage loans and stuff like that, or go with like government forms. My hunch says that there's already a lot of competition for filling out, type like bank stuff, because a lot of financial companies have incentives to do bank stuff, financial stuff. So I would say that everybody who has like a mortgage broker or whatever website probably have some sort of digitization for that. It's like our like pension or insurance or whatever. It's always already very digitized. However, for governments, not a lot of people have incentives to digitize it, just the government itself, right? And the people who kind of hand out the forms. I think that this is a good approach, going for government or like local government forms, like this Berlin guy. I think that's a very good idea. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's a treasure trove of content also, because basically forms are either ways to do it's a way to interact with some kind of entity, right? So it's if you abstract it out, you can say a form is basically really bad UI to interact with the government. Mm-hmm. So you can create a lot of blog posts on, for example, what is the process you need to do to create a company, right? There are different forms you'll have to fill out. There are different tax forms you'll have to fill out. Maybe you'll need some forms that require a lawyer and stuff. So having all that information of what are the requirements and what's the order of doing them, that could also be like a great value, I think, to humanity, right? You're helping people do things that before was just a lot of research. And if you didn't do the research correctly, you'd be fucked. And I know this just by opening a company, for example, in Israel. You have so many forms, so many things you need to do. Some of them, like if you want to close a company, you need forms that need a lawyer, for example, even if you're the only person in the company. So, for example, you want to close it with your bank, you need a lawyer to do that. So having all these kind of like conditions also added to that data set, I think could be really interesting for blogs and SEO content. Now, I guess that monetizing this project, assuming you're getting enough traffic, would be pretty easy with the upsells. For example, I want somebody else to send it, or I want to like get status updates on it and stuff like that. Do you see like any other thing there?
Yeah, so I would actually do basically all of the form fillings themselves for free. And then I would upsell by putting a validation step in the way. So for example, if I want to just fill out the form and then print it myself, stuff like that, completely free. And there's already a lot of built-in verification validation into it, right? So they like in Visafrog, so the image and like what format does the address need to be in and whatnot, right? So this will be already built into the form. But if you want a lawyer or an immigration person or a government person to review this form and make sure that you're getting all that you can from the form, which is not a verification thing, right? It's more of how well do I know the system type thing, right? So if I want that extra hop, 25 euros, just like that. And people would pay because to me, I'll give you a concrete example. So I have recently opened up like an entity in like a different country. And for me, the main problem there was with that country's, how do you call it? Like the general body that, sorry?
Telling me in Hebrew?
No, just like the main body that regulates the insurance for whatever. I don't know the actual term in English, doesn't matter. But the bottom line is that I was required to pay an upfront fee that I wasn't ready for, right? I wasn't ready for in advance because of, the way the system was set up. I learned a bit later that I submitted my form, my application via a digitized service, exactly this, right? And they fucked up my form. They just dotted the wrong I or like checked the wrong checkbox on the forms. And then when I kind of rehanded the forms myself, this got solved and I don't know anything now. So essentially my main thought or my main idea about the whole thing is to avoid situations like this, where you can very easily just get a guy, pay 25 euros for them to review the thing, and then you don't owe anything anymore. Because again, the government is not wrong for asking you to kind of prepay or pay something, right? It's the regulation, it's how things work. But they are not very good at the individual level, right? They're good at the aggregate. That's what they do, the government. But for the individual, a lot of fuck-ups happen. So these types of services can actually, for the people who can afford it, for sure, okay, I'll get that. For the people who can afford it, can really save up a lot of money and time over the years of using it. And by the way, Visafrog, for now, my favorite visa service. I'll go back every time and pay however much money the guy wants for the visa. Just worth,
Shout out.
Such a good service. For sure, man. If you're listening to this dude, I don't remember his name, but like if you're listening to...
I met the guy. I'll send him the video. So, two things I'm thinking about. First off, it's super trivial. Like, it's kind of weird we didn't talk about it yet, but this is a really, really interesting place also for ads, because there are a lot of services, especially premium services, that would want to be in some of those pages. For example, opening a company form. There are so many lawyers and CPAs that would want to advertise on that page. That would be, I think, a great monetization strategy because you have very hot leads. Those are people that are, their intent. It's super interesting. So that's trivial. The second thing I'm kind of thinking about, maybe brainstorm this with me, is let's say I already have a SaaS company or some kind of company. This seems a bit like a concept I might take to myself, like create a traffic campaign using forms in some way. Do you have like any ideas in that regard?
Yeah, I actually thought about it a lot. So let's look at a bookkeeping company, right? And actually companies already do it. So essentially the major SEO strategy for many B2B SaaS companies is as follows. List profession, i.e. if you're an accounting company like accountant, add some sort of activity that the person does. For example, if you're an accountant, you might deal with tax, right? And then list best practices for that. And it's a very common thing that everybody does. Something that I've seen some companies do if they deal with anything that requires some sort of form or like manual filling is they'll do calculators, or they'll do like an automated form type thing in widget in the website, or like a template, like a Google Sheet or Google Doc template. It's very popular. They're called like downloadable assets, like, widgets on the website that you can use. Very popular to drag people in. So I think that if you're a company that deals with any type of government entity or like a proxy, a proxy for a government entity or anything that requires like major form filling, this is a great growth channel for you. Create these type of like programmatic SEO campaigns and then build the forms out automatically for it.
Yeah. But it's not like for the typical SaaS company, right? It's more like some service.
It's very specific. It works where it works. It's not a general.
Let's throw some ideas just so people kind of get their brain working. So it would be probably accounting services, car rental services, lawyers. Yeah, what else? Like
one idea. Speaking of cars, one idea that I've had for a long while and haven't done anything with. I think I might have even talked about this in the cast previously. So when you return a car, you gotta look.
No. That's a different idea. Next cast. We're already talking about it. Yeah. Okay. You want to wrap it up, or you have like more?
Yes. One comment about this. It can be very, very easy to choose the wrong form to start with. The entire thing here depends on choosing the right form to start with. If you start with the right form, everything else would be super easy. Because again, you have to make sure that you are working on a form that people want, that it makes sense to digitize it, and that the value is evidently there. It might take a few forms to get there, but choose the form correctly. And from there, I really think that the sky's the limit. And form filling is not dead, y'all. Use it.
One last thing, shameless plug. If you are doing a programmatic SEO campaign for this or anything else, you might want to check a template that I started building. I need to update it. I'm still working on it, but basically it's a Next 13 boilerplate for programmatic SEO. So it has a lot of like the best practices that I'm using. So check it out. It's called PSEO Next, and it's free.
Amazing. By the way, as a frequent user of everything Agam builds, use his shit. Again, even if you're just starting out, it's usually very well documented, very well built, and sometimes it even works. So that's cool.
I think the only honest thing you said there was shit, but yeah.
Yes, correct. No, I'm kidding. So I think that's it for now. Agam, anything else?
No, have a good time doing red tape and forms and shit.
Yay, form.